one, isn't it?
Are we
Yeah, are
really
we here?
here? Oh, are we there?
Are we here?
Ooh.
It's very existential.
No, we're not here. This is a recording
Yes.
because it's Test.bash day, and I'm busy producing Test.bash and being the backstage boss as the Bosch. Backstage boss.
Backstage
even,
Bosch. Nailing it.
as Vernon likes to call me. So yeah, I'm busy doing that. Mark's busy just enjoying the conference and
Yeah, just have a
chatting
great
away.
time. Yeah. It's hard life sometimes, isn't it?
We realised we should have done it as part of the schedule, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And it's too late to
we
change
didn't.
that. Well, it's not too late, but it's too complicated to change that.
It is.
Then we thought about doing it as a session, but then we realised then Richard would get no breaks, and it's just no one else would get any breaks because like who wouldn't want to watch our stream, right? So
Of course.
we're recording it. So welcome to day 28 of 30 Days of Tools. Getting closer to the end.
Yes, we are.
And yeah, if you're not familiar, 30 challenges, all focused around testing tools to get you all chatting, curating, talking, sharing, all the fun stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, let's see what we've got for today. So we have the power to see things you don't. So we know what the question is. Although it's not long till it gets sent to the New Zealand folk, is it? I think like
No, about 5 hours from now.
something like that. But anyway,
Yeah.
good question for today. Good challenge, good question, and that is, what tools would you recommend to someone new to testing? Now I'm going to read the help from Simon because it's important. These are the essentials, the tools that would put someone on a good track to basically flourish in a testing career. We don't want to hear pen and paper. We don't want to hear my brain. Yes, very valid tools if you want to categorize them as tools.
I mean, I do find your brain very useful, just handing it around for
Yeah.
people to use. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's very good.
And so yeah, we don't want to hear that. We want to just think differently. Just think of a tool that's had a big impact on you, or a tool that elevated you, or a tool that you use regularly but perhaps haven't identified, and that you, as I said, someone new to testing would be interested in. And then yeah, why would you recommend it? How did it help? So that's the question. And I'm thinking, because if I think of the tools that we've mentioned over these 28 days, a lot of them are like tools that we've picked up because of context. So
Yeah.
I was heavily in web, and I was heavily in mobile. Had some very specific problems around mobile that made me seek tools. But I'm trying to think of a tool that is just kind of always there.
Sort of cross domain.
Yeah, no matter what. Like, I know the obvious one is like Excel, but to be honest, I've not really used Excel for a very long time. I think of things like Notepad++ and things like, you love these stickies. Now I'm thinking of things like that.
I love my stickies.
But
Yeah,
that's more of a way of working. It's not really tied to testing, if you know what I mean. It's to help me be productive and know what I'm up to with things. But is it really going to assist in a testing career?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to sort of try and sort of generalize across all domains. Because like the first one that came into my head was DevTools, and DevTools covers if it's kind of web based, I think that's going to be useful, but it's not really going to be super useful for maybe like embedded software.
Yeah.
That said, it's very rare for embedded stuff not to be connected to the internet. So perhaps like a proxy tool, perhaps like something like Charles or Fiddler or something like that.
I was thinking that earlier. The original thought was Charles, obviously, because Charles fanboy over here, like every opportunity. So yeah, like Charles is, like you said, if someone was new, web, mobile, IoT, things like Alexa, anything like that, yes, you probably benefit from Charles. But one thing that I've just thought of that stuck out a lot, and actually would help in many ways, is IDEs. Really get into grips.
Good point.
With IDEs, like especially like IntelliJ, VS Code, like the most popular ones, because software has to be written somewhere. You can do a hell of a lot of testing in those places. You can read code, even if you can't write it. You can read the code. There's lots of shortcuts and bells and whistles to enable you to get lots of information out of these tools.
You could An extension from that, actually, thinking about it as well, is version control tools, but not necessarily to learn how to commit things, but like learn how to look at the logs, look
Yeah.
at the diffs for each commit, like learn where things like pull requests and comments like that go, how to navigate around the code base on a tool like that. I think would be quite useful because it's just going to reveal sort of more information.
And that, you go on further, again, pretty much every domain to some degree, can CI tools, CD tools, Jenkins, Travis, CodeShip,
Build
GitHub
tools in
Actions,
general. Yeah.
like anything again that if you are getting involved in software, that it has to be written somewhere, has to be built somewhere, before you actually think about how you're going to test it.
Yeah.
And then if I do think back to purely like testing, like
Perlclip comes to mind for me.
yeah,
I've mentioned Perlclip for a few streams, but I've always enjoyed it because, it's fairly easy to use, and it's just as a tool itself, or some sort of form of Perlclip, because there's lots of versions out there now, like do counter string things and stuff like that. But it was the first tool I came across that really sort of demonstrated like the different permutations and complexity. It was a heuristic around strings as a tool. Well, if you can call it a heuristic, it's probably a bit wishy-washy. But yeah, it was a tool that showed that there was lots of different types of combinations. So it's one of those things where the more you use it, the more you appreciate actually all the different types of ideas you can actually come up with as a tester. So it's kind of teaching you at the same point as actually being quite useful to just generate stuff.
Yeah. What else is there? You mentioned DevTools. I think that that is probably quite apt for most kind of things. Trying to think of something around the test management, but again, it's very contextual. But a lot of companies still use these kind of tools, but again, like I don't think I would ever sit down with a new tester and be like, you need to know this. Like you need to have the concept of what managing tests would be. But like in terms of saying you need this tool, and that's what I'm trying to think of. Like thinking now of a modern tester, right? I don't not using like not referencing Alan Page's like modern thing, but like think of a modern tester or quality engineer. Like, I'm drawn to the fact that a lot of them can code, and that takes us back to our early starts. Basic programming. Basic JavaScript, basic Python. Is that a tool knowing them, or is that more of an education piece that you know that stuff? But
See, I'd quite happily put something like JavaScript or Python, but frame it very much heavily from the perspective of not necessarily to build automated checks, but if you wanted something to create random data for you or complex objects, or if you wanted something to, I don't know, capture some of the business logic so that you feed something in and it just goes, based on that, here's a bunch of outputs or something like that. Something like, like a little script that can just listen to a log file. Like, I remember your one with that played a little sound or something like those little things. I think learning a language like JavaScript or Python could be quite useful for, but it's a dangerous thing that you don't end up then, taking that leap into the big frameworks and stuff like that as well.
I thought of some more.
Go on then.
But I'm not going to name a tool. Screenshotting tools.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to say which one because there's so many of them. But
there are
again,
so many.
I think that is probably a really useful thing for, especially if you're brand new to, not computers, right? That's silly. But if you're new to the concept of needing to do things like capture screenshots and video logs and comment on pictures and that kind of stuff, to annotate your actual bug reports. Because again, bug reports aren't going to go away no matter how you're tracking it, what you're doing. Even if you're going to, someone's coming to you to fix it pairing, you're still going to need that little bit of evidence or the ability to recreate it or explain what happened.
Yeah.
So, which again makes me think of some, again, cross-area tools, things like Bash, like the terminal. Just being comfortable in the terminal is probably quite valuable to a new tester. Again, just because of, if you start moving into the world of automation and running checks and tests and things, a lot of them are command line driven these days. A lot of the concepts behind the CI/CD tools is just running, a shell command or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and you're only going to get so far if you know how to like SSH into a box and how to change directory and like how to do enough in Vim so that you can actually change a file, which I'm still horrendous at.
I let Andrew do that. Whenever we pair with Andrew, the dev boss at MOT, like he always, I can't remember what I do. I fuck up a lot. Oh no, that's not true. I don't fuck up a lot. I take a long time with some things. So like he likes to rebase my my Git, and like that causes Vim to open so you can write stuff. And I was like, I'm immediately like semicolon Q, like get me out of this thing. Whereas Andrew's there navigating, trying to write a message. I'm like, fuck
that's it.
Like,
yeah, I know. I semicolon WQ and semicolon Q exclamation mark if it all goes wrong. I think was it Micah? She did a workshop on Vim. I should ask her again to see if she'd do that as maybe as a 99-minute workshop. I think that'd be amazing. If you're watching this, Micah, I'm coming for you.
But like not to.
That sounded really aggressive and weird. Sorry.
But I think not to a cop-out answer right now, but like we've named a few, right? We've had a thing. We've thought of, they're probably all valid. You could argue for them. But I think like it's not a tool, but the biggest skill would be to make them understand the context and the domain that they're in, and ask questions. I know that's not a tool, like, and I said it's a bit of a cop-out way of doing it, but like we talk about this in AIT, problems before tools. Like I said, that those ones we've mentioned, I do think they work. They definitely cross over multiple domains and multiple contexts. But when you start actually getting to the niche of like actually doing your hands-on testing, doing your exploratory testing, like you start to struggle. Like I can't think of anything that really goes across them all without being able to say, use this for that. You could use this to do that. If you're in mobile domain, you absolutely need to know ADB or Xcode. Like you just can't get away from that. Like you have to know that stuff. Whereas like just taking me coming on here now and being like, boom, everyone needs to know Android Debugger Bridge. Why? I work on web. Like, I don't do anything native. I'm desktop application. It's silly. So
I think that the tools that are worth learning, if for my 10 pence, is those tools that kind of lift the lid a little bit. I think those are the tools to start off with. So I absolutely agree with you about the whole, like you have to understand your context and problems with all tools and all that stuff, of course. But I do like I remember there's certain tools that as we've talked about in previous streams that I remember using. I remember using Burp Suite for the first time and really seeing the power of like HTTP. And that's why I think like something like DevTools is really powerful, because not only is it massive and there's loads and loads of features and stuff, but it's like probably the first time you actually start going, what's this? What's this console tab? What's all this stuff going on? Oh, there's a network tab. What does that mean? Like, where are all these different events coming from and things like that? So I think if I was to get someone just getting started with testing, and I wanted to just introduce them some tools just to sort of also teach that idea of context and tooling in context, I think something like that, it has to demonstrate like that lifting the lid. And I think like your ADB and your Xcode ones, because what's your alternative? Well, you have to use a device. Whereas this is lifting the lid because it's sort of saying, well, actually, you could decouple the hardware from the software and actually have it somewhere else, and that becomes quite powerful. So I think I think a good tool to start off with kind of inspires you and sort of, expands your sort of worldview of what's actually going on in software.
Yeah.
So like one, both you and I have clearly glanced over and missed, but some sort of database tool like SQL Server
I thought
or
about it, like that. But then I thought, again, this might be my own bias, but like in my last couple of roles, I've not needed to. So
True.
I think that's what I've been thinking about. Like in my very early dev roles, absolutely, I was straight down there in the DB. But like I don't know if it's because the tooling and the frameworks are more modern and better these days. But like in recent roles, I haven't needed to. So for example, like again, it might be different. Like in MOT in Rails, because we use Ruby and Rails, I get to use the console a lot. So I actually get, because Ruby's the way it is, I can just call all our methods in the console, so I don't have to go to the DB. I can call the actual code that creates a user instead of sending the SQL query that creates a user. But then I would say that there has been testing problems that Andrew has solved by knowing SQL. So he's written certain queries for us to be able to gather data and information. So yeah, I think you're right. Actually, a database tool of some flavor, probably commonly SQL. Yeah, it's probably useful.
It's again the reason why I mention it as well is you might not interact with it very much, but once you understand like how SQL works, you start to understand how databases work, and I think that can sometimes frame your testing a little bit more as well. So especially like if you were like in the security sort of mindset as well.
And like you said though, if we jump ahead and we like remove all our biases, absolutely, I'd be like, boom, yeah, Charles Proxy, it's been so valuable to me. Selenium, Cypress, off you go, get stuck into those. Go and learn a visual testing tool. Go and learn a cloud-based, execution thing. Go and pick up CodeShip, like GitHub Actions. Like I've got my own biases and stuff, but if I'm trying to think back to someone just being new, you don't want to overload them either, right? You don't want to like literally bombard them with so many stuff that they just get derailed. Like you want to be thinking of, if I sat you down and asked you to test something now, like what would be useful for you to have or for you to be aware of. And I think there's a difference as well with, what you're saying about the decoupling that idea of theory from the tool. So, version control, the idea of a CI, what does it do? Like, what is CI? The idea of the database and that you can query it and you can do records and deletes and all that kind of stuff. But removing that from the actual how.
Yeah,
anyway.
I suppose that's it. And there's quite a learning style kind of infused into that because I know that I learn by doing.
Yeah.
As you and I've talked about a lot, I'm drawn to the code. I don't read the text, whereas other people will learn in different ways. So I think there's probably an element of that, considering in terms of recommendation and actually how you approach it. So if you're someone who is responsible for mentoring or not necessarily coaching, but like mentoring or teaching some new tester the ropes, taking the time to understand how they process that information and then show the tools that way. Because I know some people don't like being dropped in the deep end with things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see what people come up with here, because like I said, there's a number of roads we've gone down there that purely trying to be strict and be like, your greenfield tester, what would you want? Then we've gone down some sort of, things that cross multiple contexts, multiple domains. And
meta
then
tool.
Then we've also gone down our kind of like, Richard says learn this, Mark says learn that. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what people come back with. I think we'll get the obvious. I think we'll get, Excel, Word, Google Docs, Notepad++. Right? I think we'll get things like that.
I like to use numbers and whatever is the awful equivalent of Word for Mac. I can't remember what it's called now. It's that bad. I can't even remember. Pages. Oh, I remember this is me showing my age here a little bit, but I remember when it was ClarisWorks and when it was far superior to Office. I miss those days.
Lotus Notes.
Lotus Notes, yeah. That was never good.
Go back in time.
Jumpers for goalposts, marvellous.
I was watching funny enough, I was watching Taskmaster. I was catching up and Jumpers for goalposts, but they had a football challenge. And
did they? I'm way better. And I've only just started catching up on it. I'm on like season 5 at the moment.
Well, I won't ruin it, but he had a football challenge, and Alex has got his normal shoes on, and like he basically called them shit flickers. If you remember those shoes from school that everyone had to play football in, Who's like wearing these really old footballs. And also, I don't know why, but someone brought up the old footballs at school the other day, like the really air ones that just took off.
Oh yeah.
But then also, did you ever play with the sponge ones? Noise. Did you play with sponge?
Yeah.
And when it rained, it was like kicking a bloody cannonball.
A friend of mine, he fell over one of those once and broke his arm. Yeah. He just took it completely wrong and then he snapped his just near his elbow.
They used to get so heavy and they do so much damage when they hit you because it just covers so much bruise and just get this massive patch.
I know about the damage because most of the time people would just kick footballs at me rather than to me, which is probably sensible because
would you kick it back if I gave it to you, or would I have to run halfway down the pitch
trying
to find it?
I'd try. I'd always try. But my 3-year-old is better at football than I am now.
Well, there you go. Future Premier League player. Right. On that note, we are done.
Yes.
So we look forward to hearing your responses. As I said, this was recorded. If you've been reacting in the comments and chat, sorry, we're not here. We're in the past.
We're not ignoring you.
Are we in the past or the future? I have no idea. But anyway, we'll see you on Friday for day 29. If you are in around Test.bash, we'll obviously see you there as well. But have a great day. And
have a great day, everyone.
See you tomorrow. Friday tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Friday, tomorrow, Friday.